Okay, everybody, what we want to do is this. We want to take our flatted image, hopefully yours is completely colored in, and we want to make it look like it's coming to life. We're going to render it. Basically what that means is we're going to add volume to it, those shadows and lighting, so that it looks like it's three-dimensional. All right, right now we're two-dimensional, but we want to make it look three-dimensional. Before we do that, I want to show you the concept, okay? So here's the concept of what I'm talking about. For this, I'm just going to talk about, I'm just going to show you a basic circle. All right, so on my background layer, I've got this circle like this, right? Boom. Now, if I want to turn this in to a three-dimensional shape, in fact, I'll do multiple circles so we can really make it look cool. Okay, if I want to make these into three spheres, I'll put the one like that, okay? Three spheres and not just circles, there's a couple ways to do it, right? So what I would do first, I want to do this. I want to always make sure that whenever I'm drawing on top of my flatted layer, okay, I want to take the flat layer and I want to lock it. And I'll show you how this works with Wolverine here in just a second. But for this example, let's just pretend this is my flat layer. There's various colors, like this. All right, this is representation of that. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this layer, and then right on top of that layer, this layer here above it is where we're going to start rendering. Okay. So if I want to make this look like a sphere, I'll just talk about this purple one first. What we want to do is we want to figure out a light source. Okay. We want to think about where the light might be coming from. So in this case, in most of your cases, since you're doing professional work, there's probably already a light source defined based on the inks alone, and that's totally fine. But let's just say that the light is coming from, oh, I don't know. Let's say this is our light source right here. Sun is shining. All right, coming down like that. Bing. So now, if that is the light source, what we want to do is, you guys might remember this from drawing and painting or intro to art. What you want to do is you want to have a dark side on the side where the light is not. So that'd be like the shadow side. And then you want to have a lighter side where the light is hitting. Generally speaking, that darker side is going to be a little bit larger. Okay, so the way you would do that is like this. All right, here's the trick. You hold your, you press I on your keyboard, it'll give you a little color sampling icon. See that? When I click on my sphere, I'll do purple first. When I click on it, it automatically goes and selects that color. But what I want to do is I'm going to do the shadow side first, which will be right over here. What I want to do is I'm going to just go grab like a darker color. And now if I go with my paintbrush, okay, and I start coloring like so, let me just do it like this. If I start coloring like this, okay, that doesn't look very good, right? I can go back to my sampler tool by hitting I, touch it, make the lighter side up here, like that, and voila, I've got a sphere. Okay, that looks like crap, right? That's not good because I'm too worried about the edge here, right? So like I don't want to go over the sphere or it's going to ruin it. So check this out. Notice how this is on its own layer right here. It's going to stay like that. What I'm going to do instead of what I just did here, this is the key here, guys. Some of you might remember this selection tool from Graphic Design 1. Some of you might not, but it doesn't really matter. All you have to do is this. You go to your flats layer. It's already locked. Then I go to this little thing called the magic wand tool. It looks like a little stick with sparkles coming out of it. What I can do now is if I select on my flats layer, that purple circle like that, you see how it goes immediately around the entire thing? It selects all the pixels that are that same color. Now check it out. I want to remain locked. Okay, so I'm not going to be working in this flat layer. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click on the layer above it like so. And now my selection is still there. See that? It still exists. So what I can do is I can go grab that sampled color, boom, make it a little darker here. Then I can make my cursor really big. And when I come back in like this, it'll only mark within the area that's selected. You see that? If I'm way out here, it'll only mark in that area that's selected. Now check this out. If I really want to make it look good, I can go to my brush tip up here, Remember how we use that solid one? If we use the one right next to it, called the soft round tip, check this out. What I can do here is I can just do that same exact thing. And by just glancing around like this on the outside, it can make it start looking spherical. I can make that a little bit darker, and then do it a little bit more shallow, hanging it off the edge a little bit more. I can go even darker and just catch the really bottom of it like that. That is, all I'm doing is making little swooping things with my mouse, okay? Then I can go sample the top there, make it slightly lighter, get my brush, and then just kind of give it a little dusting on the top there. Right, so what did I do right there? Well, all I did was this. This happens to be sitting above my flat layer. Check that out. So now, what do I want to do with the rest of it? Okay, so that was pretty simple. Let's do this. I go back to my flat layer down here, flats. You're going to constantly go back to your flats, okay? Going back to my flats layer, I'm going to go to my magic wand again. Then I'm going to select different tone of, or a different color. All right, so now I just touch the blue one. And look at that, it only selects the blue. Now my selection is different. See that? So then all I've got to do is, again, my rendering layer is above my flats layer. Your flats layer, once you're done with it, it's locked. You only use that to select from. All right, so I go select on this little blue guy, select my color sampler, press I, sample the color. Notice how my color palette changes over here. You can go select the darker one, go back to my brush, and then I can just real simply just kind of like shade like this. See that? Maybe a little darker, do it again, that, maybe even a little bit darker. Even add a little bit so it makes it look like it's sitting behind the other one like that. So by doing this, it's a really useful way. I don't have to worry about getting on that edge at all. It automatically putting a little fence around the area in which I can draw or color. And because I'm using the same color, the same hue or the same tone as the thing that's below it, it gives the impression there is rendering happening. All right, so watch. I'll go touch this again. A little bit lighter, a little softer like that. All right, because I decided that my light source, I can jack that up just a second. Command Z or Control Z is always really helpful right there. There we go, that looks better. My light source is coming from directly above that blue circle. All right, so now let's do it again. So I go down to my flats. I go to my magic wand tool, select this yellowish pen thing, go back up to my rendering layer down here. I'm going to select with my color sampler. I'm going to select that color. Notice how it changes my palette. Then I just go slightly darker for my brush tool. And then I'm going to just continue doing what I've been doing like that. I'm going to go hit one color, then I'm going to go grab another tone like that. Grab another tone on the very back. Excuse me. And then I'm going to just come in and sample that color again. Hit it like that. And voila. So what we have here, I've created in that brief amount of time, 3 little floating orbs. You see that? But all I didn't really do anything. I had 2 circles, and just by simply sampling that area, it allows you to add that 3-dimensional touch to it. You see this? So now this is the basics of what I want you to do. And I'm going to show you how this now translates to your project. All right. So now check this out. When I jump back over to my project here, it's the exact same thing. Only it's a little more scribbly because I was trying to stay in the lines and stuff, but you'll see what I mean. All right, check this out. I want to define a light source. Okay. In your case, this one doesn't particularly have a light source necessarily. It's more like possibly like right about where in the top left up here, but it doesn't really matter that much. You don't have to draw anything in. You just got to think about it. Okay. So if I want to do this, let's pretend everything is color. All right. Let's pretend it's all completely colored in. The first step, notice I only have the 2 layers. I've got my outline layer and my flat layer. See that? My outline layer can be locked. Also, my flat layer at this point, because technically I'm done with it, let's just say, can also be locked. See that? I've got 2 locked layers now. What I want to do now is I want to make a new layer that's between the 2. All right, so when I make a new layer, this is going to be my rendering layer. It's above my flats, but it's below my outline. See that? This is where we're going to be doing all of our rendering. So the way to do this is like so. I click on my flats layer. I go to the magic wand tool. I select any area like a color. Let's just do the yellow, for instance. I'll select that yellow. You see how it goes and makes a little fence around all the yellow pixels. Now, let's say I want to do all of the yellow at the same time, everything that's the same color. I want to select this as well. When I click over here, oh, well, it jumped over there. Whoops, I can't get them both at the same time. Well, here's how you do it. You select an area of yellow with your wand. All you do is just click once, hold shift, and then you can click another area and it will select both areas at the same time. If you have more than 2 or 3 or whatever, you can hold shift again, select that. And so now I've got a selection running around everywhere where there's yellow. You see this? So that's where all the yellow is. Okay. And I'm only going to be working in this sort of invisible layer that's in the middle. All right, so here we go. Let's attempt to begin. I was showing you the soft brush over here because I just wanted to illustrate how to do this. In my case, if you were going to look at like my artwork, like for instance, this is a project that I just did yesterday. That layer, you see that layer as I turned it off there? I don't use a soft brush in my own personal comic work. I actually use a harder brush, and I can show you that as well. So here's what I'm going to do next. Okay. Boom, I've got this selected. I press I on my keyboard. It's your color sampler. Touch. It's going to change your palette over here. You can just go drag over there to a darker color that's in the same sort of color family. You go to your paintbrush. Make sure you're on the layer that's above layer 1. And then now check it out. You can make that paintbrush as big or as small as you'd like. And here we go. I'm going to start painting. Come on. There we go. Now I can come in here and I can begin adding in some tone. Now, this is a softer brush that I'm using right here. And now check this out. If I want to add, let's say I just add a bunch of darkness right here. Okay. I'm going to add a whole bunch in like this. Right now, this looks like crap. You're probably saying that this doesn't look like those cool orbs that you just made a second ago. Well, watch this. Now I can go over to my eraser. I can go select my eraser here and I can make it soft as well. And then I can remove what I don't want. So I can come through. I'm having some technical difficulty. There we go. Now I can come in and I can remove what I don't want. So I can have a little bit using the eraser and the brush on at the same time. You can create this kind of look. You can get nice. You can get nice and detailed. You can get particular parts erased out that you don't want, etc. So like this. Now this maybe doesn't look great right now. I'm just kind of showing you how you can do it. You can go. It's a process. You go back and forth, right? So I'm trying to get some of these wrinkles. As I'm showing you, I've decided I want to try something different. I'm gonna put that back. Back to my brush. I'm gonna do this now. There we go. All right, so that's looking pretty cool. So notice what I'm doing here. It's all happening on this one layer above. I don't think that looks particularly correct here, so I'm gonna get rid of that. Everything that I'm doing is happening on this layer here. See this? It's weird because you're not really adding much, but because you're doing it like this, and because it's on top of the thing below it, you get this effect. I can come back in and I can change color a little bit. If I want to make it a little bit darker even in some spots, like if I want to make this even darker under here. And by getting better at this rendering aspect, you can make it look really nice. So here I am just going through and rendering. There we go, that's gonna be better. All of the different parts of this piece here. All right, so now what do I keep? Let's say I want to just keep going. All right, so this does, let's say I'm not satisfied with what I've done here, or it will look cool eventually. This is probably not the best part to start because this is super complex. But let's say I just want to do, I don't know, the fist step here. All right, so I'm done with my yellow for now, let's say, and I want to move on to the blue. All right, the fist part. What I do with that is I just go back down to my flat layer. I select my magic wand, select a new color, and now all of a sudden you'll see the little ants are marching around the blue this time. So I select my sampler color or my sampler tool by pressing I, press that blue, it'll change my color palette. And I can come in here, darken it slightly, and then jump in here and figure out where my light source is and how I want to shade it. So like if I want to shade right here, I can start making it come to life. The part where like knowing where your light's coming from and where to put the shadowing in, that takes practice. You'll get it after a while. Just kind of think to yourself, if the light was hitting this side, where would the shadow be, right? The shadow would always be on the opposite side of where the light was hitting. I'm just coming through here and I'm adding some shadowing in. I can make it even darker. And what you end up doing, if you do it long enough here, you'll get what will appear to be like an actual, I'm going to color that as well, three-dimensional object. You're going to start to create tone here. It's going to begin to look like a three-dimensional object over the course of time. So here I go. You can really kind of see it on his mask now. See that? It takes a little work, but once you get it going, it looks really dope. It's not very hard either. Like, you don't do much. You're just adding a little tone. You don't have to, because you're not trying to stay within any lines or whatever, you can kind of almost be sloppy with it. And you'll see what I mean as you get started. It's all about setting the file up properly first. So anyway, as you build on it, you'll get better and better at it. And you'll start to create, it'll start to come to life, as you can start to see here. Right? All right, so what's actually happening there is it's actually, you see how that fist, can you guys tell that fist is sort of looking more, I mean, I only worked on it for 17 seconds, but the more you add to it, the more it starts to come to life. You see that? It's just the difference between a flat color and a color that's been, and a flat image and an image that's been rendered. So conversely, back to what I was saying about the sphere earlier, if you're adding shadows to one side, let me select that again. If you're adding shadows to one side, then you're going to want to probably add highlights to the other side. So the way you do that is you just exactly the same. Select over here, a lighter version of the color. And then within that space, you can start to add in your highlights. Like that, and it starts to really come to life, right? This is basically like a painting. Some of you guys have taken painting, I think, drawing and painting. You may have learned a little bit about this. This is like sort of like speed version of that, because you don't have to mix anything or anything like that. You just have it right there. And because you can border in your work by using that selection tool, it's really almost like cheating. It's really simple to do. You see that? You can just add that. So by adding that highlight, you can see it really starts to pop. You know what I'm talking about, guys? All right, well, this is what I want you to start with. And now look at my layers, take a quick snapshot of my layers. All I've got, once I finish my flats, let's just pretend I've got my flats here. All I have here is my flats on the bottom, my outline on the top, and then I've made this new layer. They're both locked. I've made this new layer in the middle here where I'm doing the rendering. You see that? This is all that's happening. But when you lay it on top of the outline and on top of the flats, you get this nice little texture thing happening. Cool. All right. That concludes the introduction to rendering in Photoshop.